want to put a dent in your day, but as we all sit down to our evening dinner on this Sunday, the 3rd of August, whatever it is, 2025, millions of innocent Palestinians will be eating leaves from trees in their pathetic attempts to stay alive. The Israeli starvation of that population is now coming to a head as the compounding effects of months with no food leave thousands reduced to being walking dead. Even if Israel opened up the borders and let in humanitarian aid, it will still be too late to save thousands of the elderly, the sick, and children who've been left emaciated skeletons. Not that there's any indication, of course, that Israel or the IDF have any intention of ending their illegal and inhumane starvation of Gaza. It is a disgrace that it has taken 2 years and this man-made famine to awaken the world's media to the reality of the genocide being perpetrated by the IDF in Gaza. The truth, thankfully, is finally being reported on mainstream news channels, but this is much too little, much too late. For instance, the visit of US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff to inspect the US-Israeli Gazan Humanitarian Foundation food distribution site. It should be inhumanitarian, by the way. Foundation food distribution site was a PR exercise as the IDF continued to shoot starving Palestinians seeking food. These food distribution sites, they are nothing more than mousetraps. They hold out the potential of giving scraps of food and then slaughter hundreds of Palestinians as they go and try to retrieve it. The testimony of a US Green Beret, Anthony Aguilar, who was on the ground and saw what was happening, hit home this week, especially when he talked about what happened to a little boy called Amir. This is what he had to say.
We were distributing from site number 2. And this young boy, maybe 7 to 6 years old, my son's age, walked up to myself and another contractor that was standing next to me. He kissed his hand, and then he kissed my hand. And that was meaningful. It touched us. This little boy in his hands was carrying half a bag of rice that he found on the ground, some lentils in a scrap bag with some rocks and dirt because he was picking it up from the ground. He had no shoes. He left with the rest of the crowd. When I first heard the machine gun open up, I didn't know what it was. So I ran up to the berm, took cover to look, and I see the bullets flickering off. And I was trying to find out what was going on. Was there an enemy? What was the threat? And there was no threat. It was just the IDF shooting to communicate with the crowd. And Palestinians were left dead on the ground, on the road. And Amir was amongst them.
He went on to call out the IDF for their war crimes, opening up on civilians from a machine gun on a tank.
I have witnessed the Israeli Defense Forces utilizing the main gun of the Merkava tank, which fires a 120 millimeter round. And they call that a warning shot. I call that a war crime. You don't fire on an unarmed population to communicate or control them. It's a violation of the Geneva Convention. So yes, I have witnessed it firsthand. We were not provided with a rules of engagement. We were not provided with a standard operating procedure. The practice that became was just modeled off of what the Israeli Defense Forces in the area would do. I have seen the coax machine gun on the tank fire at the feet, over the heads, and into the crowds. A machine gun is an area fire weapon. It doesn't shoot a precise spot, it shoots in an area. Never in my military career, 25 years of service in multiple combat locations around the world, have I seen anyone use a quote-unquote warning shot from a belt-fed machine gun.
Of course, the Israeli propaganda machine immediately went into overdrive, attacking the whistleblower. But due to the fact that Aguilar is both a decorated US soldier and has had experience around the world in combat zones, they have found it impossible to discredit him or his reports of what is actually happening on the ground.
Mr. Aguilar's claims to the BBC and others that he was an eyewitness to IDF actions are false. He did not leave the static distribution site during operations, and from there, he would not have had a line of sight to any IDF assets that were behind high berms protecting the sites.
When's the last time you were in a combat zone and understood line of sight and what to look at? I did it for 25 years. I don't tell you how to be a lawyer or how to peddle propaganda. I know what I'm talking about.
Mr. Aguilar was terminated from his contract with UG Solutions on June 13th, 2025, due to poor performance, volatile conflicts with staff, and erratic behavior.
Multiple times now they said they fired me, but not once have they generated a termination letter or a firing letter or a human resources letter that says I'm fired. I terminated my contract. Period. I am not anti-Israel. I'm not anti-Palestine. Never done anything like this in terms of going on the record with something. But what I saw and what I witnessed and what the world got a peek of, a day of reckoning is coming.
Hard to believe, but even the BBC World Service, whose reporting on Gaza I have been critical of, this week did a segment highlighting the targeting of Gazan children by the IDF. They discovered that of more than 160 cases of children shot in the war, they found that in 95 cases, the children had been shot in the chest or head, with 59 of those children killed by the IDF. Only 2 instances were found to have been the responsibility of Palestinians, one in celebratory gunfire, the other in a gang conflict.